Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the FoMSCast. My name is Michael. I'm your Vice President of Advocacy, Accessibility, and Equity, and I'm here with another USC President candidate.
Hi, I'm Tessa Smith. I'm running for USC President this year.
And why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, your faculty, what you've kind of been doing around campus these last couple of years?
Cool, sounds good. Yeah, well, I'm in social science faculty. I'm in the PPE program, which is politics, philosophy, and economics, and I'm also minoring in history. So I've been taking a lot of classes on a lot of different subjects, meeting a lot of people. And I'd like to think I do a lot around campus. I'm pretty involved in extracurriculars. I'm president of the Debate Society, and I'm also on student council currently. I'm in my first year as a social science counselor. And aside from that, I co-founded the Knit and Crochet Club. I was the president of that for a year. I've been active in a couple other clubs around Western, and yeah.
What drew you to run for the president this year?
A lot of just my passion for the Western community. I came here as an out-of-province student, didn't have too many supports, didn't know too many people. And I really wanted to find a community and kind of a sense of belonging here at Western. So, I don't know, I'm super passionate about the kind of the unique campus culture we've got going on here and everyone I've met here. So I just want to give back to the student community. And I feel like I have some good ideas that I can bring to the USC.
So you had the debate on Thursday. That was 4-ish days ago. How do you feel coming out of it?
Pretty good. I mean, debate is kind of my element. I am the president of debate. So I enjoyed it a lot. I like that kind of thing. And yeah, I feel pretty good about it. I feel like I got to make my points and kind of tell the student community, I don't know, what I believe in. So,
in 3 words or less, describe your platform.
3 words or less. Well, the 3 words that I chose for my my platform pillars were supports, community, culture. So, I feel like I have to go with that. But if I want to go with something a little more casual, a little more descriptive, probably just representing students, just trying to talk to people, meet them where they're at, do what really works for like the regular students of Western.
Yeah, and so what were the 3 words you chose for your platform?
Supports, community, and culture.
Want to elaborate on that a little bit?
Sure, I would love to. So yeah, supports is just like the general what the USC provides to students, all of the mental health supports, academic supports. And rather than trying to come up with a bunch of different kind of things to add on to the existing supports, I thought, why not try and just get the existing supports more out to students? So I have a couple new ideas in my platform. You can check it all out. It's all on my Linktree and on my Instagram. But a lot of what I'm running on is just, there's like, I keep saying like 90% of students don't care about student council, have much better things to do than care about student council. And so they're not benefiting from the USC's resources because really with the current system, you have to like know about the USC, you have to know when to reach out in order to get any of the supports. So I'm running on really making sure we're like meeting students where they are, boothing about academic supports in the library where the students are like discussing academics, where people need academic supports, boothing about like housing supports and like lease writing supports and mental health supports when people are needing those things specifically, like coming up to rental season, telling people how to find housing, that kind of thing. And then community and culture is really the community point. I'm kind of thinking of as like kind of finding like a unified campus culture at Western. So I've got some new traditions like the Western Roar where we all go out into the football field and just scream for a minute just to release stress during exam season, because I don't know if you've ever felt the need to scream to get rid of some of that stress, but yeah. So some new things like that, as well as just building on the existing culture. And then the culture point, I want to really focus on the diversity at Western, because not only are we a super multicultural campus, we've got a lot of different cultures and different ethnic backgrounds, different kind of languages, all that kind of thing on campus, and I really want to support that. But it's also just like the different niches, because I found that I really found my home at Western through just meeting people who I aligned with, who I had things in common with. And so I really want to focus on supporting those niches, because that's, I feel, where most people benefit from the USC.
Yeah. Going back to resources, so you said, like you said just now, that you will plan to make USC resources more accessible.
Yes.
What would that look like, and can you list like specific resources that you were thinking of?
Cool. Yeah, it kind of depends on the resource, honestly. A lot of the ones that I was thinking of is just things that people tell me they've never heard of, things that I had not heard of until I started like until I literally joined the USC as a
Mhm.
counselor last year. Stuff like the community legal supports, things like the income tax clinic, things like there's a lot of mental health resources, the peer support center, and even some of the resources that Western provides that students don't really know about. Things like Foot Patrol, which I didn't really know about until I ended up joining Foot Patrol. And so just it kind of depends on the resources how we want to get it out to students, but something like community legal services where it's basically a service where you can get legal support if you need it. So like just setting up a booth and kind of saying like, hey, this is something that you might need right now, rather than a lot of the USC's booths USC's booths right now are just kind of like a generic booth kind of in the UCC always that just says, hey, we're the student council, come learn about us. But if you don't really know what kind of things you can get from the student council, like you're not going to be thinking, hey, I'm struggling to find a roommate, I don't know like how to come here. Or, like you wouldn't think to go over to that booth.
Yeah.
But if I have a booth that's just like, hey, are you currently a first year wanting to find housing for next year? We will help you with that right here, right now. And then if you were somebody who that problem applies to, you'd probably be a lot more likely to go over. At which point we can tell you about legal services. We can tell you about like the off-campus housing search function. We can tell you about one of the new events that I want to run, a roommate mixer, where people can find a roommate who is compatible with them, which is something a lot of students struggle with. So, yeah.
I'd like to hear more about that actually, because I know that I think there's more than one like Western off-campus housing like Facebook group. But you're proposing some different things for finding roommates.
Oh yeah, my roommate mixer, it's basically like a speed dating style event because I was in residence my first year in Saugeen, so I had to fill out the like little Western housing survey thing that they got going. So I filled that out and I ended up getting partnered with somebody who's still my best friend. So that worked out really well for me, just like finding somebody compatible. Obviously it doesn't work for everyone, but I figured like we have something like speed dating style where you kind of fill out a survey a little similar to that, just about kind of your living style, like what kind of person you get along with. And then you can go into the event and see who was like matched with you, I guess, as a compatible roommate, and get to like actually meet them, see if you vibe with them, see if you want to maybe live with them next year. So
so one of the things you said during the debate was that like 90% of students don't care about student council. I've been on student council for 2 years. I don't disagree. The general public really doesn't. Do you have a plan on how to foster more engagement, more interest in the council?
Yeah, so this basically, it's obviously a pretty difficult task. Like, I think people, honestly, I didn't care about student council for my first 2 years. I honestly think it's kind of valid. Like, people have busy lives, people are doing school, extracurriculars, finding jobs, whatever. And so a lot of the ways that I want to engage people in student council is rather than just trying to foster a generic engagement, just like providing those specific resources again. So this goes back to like boothing about specific things at strategic times. But it's also just things like, I don't know, running events that students are really interested in. I really want to make sure that as president, I'm like getting out there and talking to people and like actually kind of getting to know the student community, like remaining kind of a part of the student body. Because I feel like a lot of the issue with the USC, and this is no fault to anyone in the USC, of course, but it's kind of, you end up in a bit of an echo chamber or a bit of a bubble where you don't really see how like the non-student council students are feeling about a lot of things. So I even found this in my consultations, like talking to people in the USC who think like certain problems have been solved and like people are more engaged than they are, just because the people they're talking to are the people who are engaged. And so I really want to make sure I'm kind of breaking out of that, talking to the average student, and yeah.
Building onto that, so music students are some of the busiest people on campus. We have one of the heaviest workloads. And we've got a bunch of stuff that's like not on our schedule, so performances, rehearsing, practice, etc., etc. And oftentimes they seem kind of forgotten since we're at the bottom of the hill. We're not really in the heart of campus. Do you have any plans on how to keep music students engaged, in USC events and programming, and a plan to keep us integrated with the rest of campus?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think one of the main things I have on this is just like appreciating the things that you guys do, because obviously music is a bit of a different kind of a faculty. Like you really bring something unique to campus, and I want to appreciate that in the USC. So one of the things that I have is just like trying to invite on-campus students to play at events and things for the USC, including things like when we're just boothing for all of the things that the USC does booths for, like Movember, like Clubs Week, all of that, which also has the double purpose of student engagement as well, because if somebody's playing some cool music, people will be more likely to come over to see what we're offering. But getting students to come for that. And then the other thing that I have is like the Mustang Makers and the Mustang Marketplace. Mustang Makers is just featuring like different kind of creative students on campus, which would include musicians on the USC Instagram page once a week, just saying like, hey, this is somebody pretty cool on campus, just wanted to give them a shout out. Boosting people that way. And then Mustang Marketplace is kind of more targeted to small businesses, but it could also apply to services, so it's not just like products people are offering. Where like if you have like a service you're offering, say if you're a musician offering to play for people, then you could be on this website, and it's basically just a marketplace where student-owned small businesses can all be. And I think that it would be quite a popular thing because student businesses are already pretty supported by the community. I feel like we have a pretty good community of like people who want to uplift their fellow students. So just creating kind of a forum for that to exist, which would enable people to find consumers better and to be able to take off. Yeah.
And so, talking about getting music students to be student groups to be performing at USC stuff, does this kind of thing like include like bigger events and other opportunities for paid gigs within the USC?
It would definitely be a paid gig. I don't want to get the students to be doing work for us without getting paid, for sure. So, if there's any time we're hiring students, it would definitely be paid. Except in, I guess, specific circumstances. Yeah. But yeah, it would obviously depend on the event. I'm definitely down to give student artists like a stage. I really want to support we have a lot of talented artists here at Western, and I really want to be able to support that. So yeah.
Another thing that you mentioned was trying to make booking spaces more accessible for dance groups around campus.
Yes.
Do you have a plan to kind of streamline that process?
Yeah, so the room booking system is currently mostly reserved to just classes and like professors and also USC ratified clubs. This isn't exactly necessary. I think there should be a system and it's on my platform to create a system for non-ratified clubs to be able to book rooms, because a lot of what I hear from consultations, and it's dance groups, but it's also other groups on campus, just like they have something valuable that they're bringing to the student community, and yet they're having to practice or rehearse or like meet off campus because they just can't find a room here. And I also don't want to be encouraging students just like kind of squatting in rooms and setting up meetings when they don't have the room booked. So just allowing people to book rooms when we have all of these rooms open anyway. I don't see why it can't be possible to just let these groups book them. And I do think this would help the dance students specifically, because they're always out there in the social slide tunnel. Every time I walk through, I go through there a lot, and I'm always seeing dance groups practicing there, which is completely unnecessary when I then go and see like 50 empty rooms on campus where you can just move the desks and turn it into a dance space. And a lot of the reason they do that is because they're not a ratified club, so they don't have access to the room booking system. And so I would first like allow them to have access without going through all the bureaucracy of ratification, and then hopefully allow them to use the spaces the way they need to.
Adding on to that, so there are a lot of ratified clubs. I think there's like something over 200 within the USC. If we were to open up that system to have non-ratified clubs book the spaces, is there a plan to kind of ensure that rooms are being booked out equitably and like everyone's getting what they need?
Yeah, definitely. So this would be, it would still be a priority for ratified clubs, obviously, because as the USC, they are part of us. We'd have to value them first. But I think it's definitely possible. Like, as I mentioned, there's a lot of empty rooms on campus. Like, even here in Talbot, it's always, like, quite frequently not full. So we do prioritize, obviously, classes, USC clubs. But there's still easily enough empty rooms for the non-ratified clubs to be able to have it as well. And, yeah, as for, like, getting spaces that work for you, I think, like, dance spaces especially need a specific kind of room.
Yes.
Can't have a room where the desks are nailed to the floor. So I'd definitely be taking that into account and ensuring that's, like, considered, and trying to just work out the room booking system so that we keep some of those available for the dance groups.
Another thing that I was thinking about, so I was on the music LST team this year on the soft team.
Oh, nice.
And I saw one of your things was you wanted to have a $200 food dollar credit for softs during a week. And I think that's a good idea because definitely one thing that we need is more food that we don't have to pay for. We get a half off at the Spoke, but even sometimes you don't want to eat Spoke every single day.
Yeah.
But what I'm wondering is, because there's a lot of faculty softs, what I'm wondering is where would that money be redirected from? But then also, do you have any plans to? Because have you ever been a soft?
I have not, but I have a lot of friends who have soft.
Right.
So.
There can sometimes be like unspoken drama between faculty softs and resident softs. So if the resident softs who are under housing at Western saw us getting this free meals, do you have a plan to maybe like to work to at least address that?
Okay. Yeah, so the first part as to where the money is being directed from, the way that I've been explaining this is obviously a common question, and it should be brought up. But yeah, basically the budget for a week is huge. And
Yes.
I think the faculty softs, or softs in general, of course, but this is only targeted the ones that are directly under my purview as USC. Faculty softs are a huge part of our week. Like, this kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier about, like, the people find community at Western through like the small interactions, kind of through the niche groups. And I think a large part of that is just as a first year, meeting your soft, being able to like interact with somebody who you see as a mentor. Like, that is often the part that is most meaningful about a week to a first year coming in, especially new, especially like not really knowing how everything works, just as their introduction to Western. So I think just because faculty softs are so important, they deserve to be appreciated. And I'd frankly put them like as more important than a lot of the other things going on in O-Week. Now, this doesn't mean that I'm cutting O-Week services, because again, the budget is huge. It's not like we'd have to like get a really bad headliner, because just like the volume of the budget, like, it wouldn't have to be like that. But I think like we'd still be able to have fantastic O-Week programming, pretty much the same. And honestly, if there was some small reduction in like the number of food trucks or something like that, I honestly think it's worth it just to make the softs feel more appreciated. But I don't even think that would be necessary, because it's just being able to run it on like a tighter budget is easily something that's possible.
Yeah, and then the other thing, like, would you try and work with the school or work with housing at all to see if you get a similar thing for the other softs? Because the one thing that I think we always need more of every year is more unity between the two kind of divisions, because the way they're run is pretty different. And at the end of the day, our common goal should be one big team supporting first years.
Yeah, exactly. This is the other thing about resident softs already have like some supports from housing, but the other benefit to funding the faculty softs and showing them more appreciation is that then I do have the power to go to Western and be like, hey, look at the way we're supporting the softs. Look at how this has created a better culture for O-Week. Because I really think it would have a huge impact to show these people appreciation. And so then going to Western saying, try and do the same for the res softs, try and build this culture up, trying to like create a unified culture. So yeah, I'd 100% be working with them on that, 100% be trying to negotiate better conditions for res softs as well.
And then one other thing I noticed the platform was your idea of the faculty and affiliate relations coordinator. Do you want to talk a little bit more about that and how that would benefit music students?
I'd love to. Yeah, a lot of that came out of consultation with music students, so it is very applicable to this faculty. So it would basically be a position in the USC, like just one person whose full job within the USC is to coordinate with faculty and affiliates. And so this would be like they'd be contacting all of the faculties and both of the affiliates, and just being kind of that point of contact between the faculty and the USC, because I find a lot of the time, like speaking to people from faculties and affiliate councils, that they're saying like, hey, we don't really know like what kind of support we can get in this area, or we don't really know like how the USC works here, and then just having to email one person who redirects them to another person who redirects them to another person, which is incredibly inefficient. So just having this one point of contact, so any questions about the USC from affiliate councils or faculty councils can be redirected there, and as well as just actively fostering a relationship, because this is something, especially in music, it's like, as you mentioned, it's quite distant from the rest of main campus. It's quite distant from some of the culture and from the USC in many respects, which it shouldn't be because you guys are also USC constituents, obviously. So yeah, just being able to like have one position whose entire job is to create that relationship, make sure you have like the two-way communication going on, make sure you're hearing like the needs of music students, the needs of like other small faculty students, and yeah, so that nobody's needs are being forgotten about, because it's kind of very easy in the USC once you kind of get caught up in like governance and get caught up in like the bubble basically, to only focus on like the faculties you know about. And so I really want to make sure like we have this dedicated position so that I'm listening to every single faculty, every single affiliate, and representing everyone's interests more while also providing those resources more effectively.
Yeah. I got 2 more questions for you. Why is the faculty of music important to you? We are the smallest faculty. You know, there's not a lot of votes to be found here, not a ton of engagement. So why are we important to you?
Why are you important? Well, I think every faculty at Western is important in a different way. I'm not here just to try and get votes from music students. I'm here because I want to talk to you guys. I want to hear your opinions. And it's like, I really care about, as I said, the community at Western. And I think every single faculty is a part of that. And every single faculty has something different to offer. And this is pretty explicit within music. Like, you guys are, like, super creative. You guys are bringing the, like a different energy than you'll get from a different faculty. So I want to make sure that I'm engaging with everyone, making sure that everyone has a good experience at Western. And yeah.
And then my last question here is, in your own words, what is the role of the USC president?
Well, I think it's quite a few things, honestly. I think it's a pretty big role. The first is obviously just leading the executive team, leading the USC, making sure that all of the kind of organizational boring stuff is done. So all of the like finances, like governance, that kind of thing. But I think past that, it's like a cultural position. And I really want to make sure I'm addressing that part, because I think as like the leader in some sense of like this whole group of students, you really have the necessity to go out, go be talking to students, be like making sure that you are providing a good culture and like leading in a way that facilitates a good culture. Because as USC president, you kind of dictate not only like the way in which it runs organizationally, but also just like the culture that's coming out of the USC, the general attitudes that's coming out of the USC. And I think that's like a really positive thing that can help a lot of people. Yeah. So I want to really focus on fostering a culture and a community, and like focusing on the vibes-based aspect of the role, where we're like helping people have a good time at Western, making sure, obviously the USC's main thing is like campus life, rather than the academic side, which Western does. So I want to really make sure that the campus life is good, that I'm like staying engaged, interacting with people, as well as keeping the organization running.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for joining me on this. If there's anything else you'd like to say to music students or to voters out there, go ahead.
Cool. Thank you. Well, I guess my last thing is just I really appreciate you guys. Music students and everyone at Western, just like I've had a great 4 years, and I really am running just to give back to this community because I love it so much. So yeah, if you believe in what I'm running for, please follow my Instagram, Tessa Smith for USC, with the 4 being the number 4. And yeah, give me a follow, read about my platform. My DMs are always open, so if you ever have a question, I love answering them. I'm a bit of a nerd. I spend a lot of time working on that platform, so I would love to answer questions on it, and I appreciate you guys.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you as well. Thanks for having me.